You're grinding every day. Long hours, no backup, no accountability. That ends now. The Empower Solopreneur Mastermind gives you one simple advantage: a weekly power session that turns isolation into domination. Every Friday morning on Zoom, you'll get real coaching and real feedback to make real moves. Join a group of driven professionals in a program designed for solopreneurs and people working at home. Stop getting stuck. Start scaling. Seats are limited. Lock in yours today at modernobserver.com/empower-mastermind.
Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you succeed in your business, life, and career. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin with the Modern Observer Group, and with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Eric. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, we have had a very strange month with multiple blizzards hitting us and across the Northeast, several feet of snow.
Well,
And I am so happy this week because it is supposed to be this coming weekend in the 60s.
yes, and today's March 2nd, so literally that was last month. We don't have to worry
Yes,
about
that's
that.
true. Yes.
But as we were discussing before, I mean, I was born in 1954, so I vividly remember the blizzard of '78 up here, and I have family. My wife is from Providence, Rhode Island, North Providence, Rhode Island, and I still have family over there. In Connecticut, I mean, it wasn't that bad up here in Avon. Other places got a whole lot worse, but they got 38 inches of snow, which beat the blizzard of '78, which was horrific by a foot. And
Yep.
I'm talking about my brother-in-law and other people in my family there that the storm ended on Monday, and it took them on Wednesday just to get one pass down their streets, much less everything else going. So, I mean, I'm just, praying for all their recoveries and so on and so forth. And I'm sure the kids were having a ball, but it was pretty tough over there. So it's been a rough winter. And I also use the analogy that in '78 here, us living in Connecticut, a month before, and remember a month before the blizzard this year up here, we had that 20-incher that came down in January. And that was also in '78, a month before the blizzard, was the snowstorm that collapsed the roof in the Hartford Civic Center. So there were two within a month that year, two within a month this year. And it was wild. So what can I say?
Yeah, these things do tend to be cyclical. And I mean, I was a little kid. I was, think, 9 in '78. I remember the blizzard well. Um, Probably a lot differently than the adults remember it, because to me, hey, no school, we play in the snow, this was great. But now, of course, I actually had to shovel all the snow, and not having a snowblower, wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I think we got a fun topic today because I mean, there's different ways that you can approach what has just happened and how you're getting over
Yes,
it and
there.
so on and so forth. And so tell us what our topic is today. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about thinking outside the box. And I know all of our listeners have heard that phrase. Usually it's meant to inspire creativity, but things have changed a bit. And the fact of the matter is that if you're not thinking outside the box now in your day to day work, if you're just doing what everybody else is doing, you're falling behind because technology is moving so quickly and things are changing so fast. If you're not thinking outside the box, you're really not as effective as you could be. And I actually just ran into this situation where I actually am dealing with an issue that everybody told me, well, you know what? You should talk to an attorney about this. And I talked to a number of attorneys, and with one exception, they all sort of parroted the same line. Say, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, there's no point in this. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Except there are laws on the books that are there specifically for this situation. And none of these attorneys seem to be willing to go down that path. They were all following what they've always done, doing what everybody else did. And as a result, I didn't hire any of them because none of them stood out. And we're seeing this more and more. If you're in the job market, you need to stand out by thinking outside the box. We few shows ago we did a show on AI. AI is forcing you to think outside the box because if you can do something and AI can do it better, you've got to find a unique, point that sets you apart. So we're going to be talking about how to think outside the box and also why so many people don't.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of you can kind of figure out why a lot of people don't, and really it comes down to the big C, comfort, not wanting to get out of your own zone and so on and so forth. Maybe your fears of failure, things like that. Um, Over reliance on other things, outside things. It's just your brain and so on and so forth. You know more than what you think you know and that kind of thing. So obviously those are big obstacles and those are things that we always have. And we talk about that a lot as far as how to get out of that. And that's challenging those assumptions, embracing that ideas and so on and so forth. But that is part of the rut that causes this stuff in the first place. So, I mean, really step number one is to just realize that this is going on and just face it head on and do that. But I mean, it does happen to the best of us where we're gonna have our great days and we're gonna we're gonna fall back from time to time. It's human nature.
Oh, absolutely. Nobody is at the top of their game 100% of the time. But you do have to make the effort to really look at things at different perspective, find different ways to do things. And a good way to start this is to actually look at the resources you've got to do a job and then not think, oh, well, I need more resources, but how can I complete this project with the resources I have available? That scarcity forces you to rethink things. It's easy to come up with a plan that assumes you've got everything you need. But when you don't, when your resources are limited, it forces you to think outside the box in order to get things done. So change your perspective a little bit. Think about how you could accomplish what you need to do and yet not use all your resources. Certainly not go over what you have, which a lot of folks tend to do. Figure out what the goal is and look at new ways to do it. And quite frankly, if you're doing something, and we've said this on other podcasts, if you're doing something in a certain way, and the only reason you can come up with is, well, because that's the way I've always done it, it's time for you to start thinking outside the box and challenging yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, thinking outside the box, it spurs your innovation and adaptability. It helps you do problem solving, broadens your perspective as you were talking about. It can give you a strategic advantage. And basically, the way to challenge that, how to improve that. Number one, challenge those assumptions. We've talked about this in other podcasts in various ways too. And then, as far as being upset with the discomfort, embrace it and start figuring out how you're going to get outside of that. And then cross pollinating ideas. Obviously, it's great to work with other people on this. You can't go it alone. So, really, what you need to do is just take the offensive.
Yeah. And, as you started to say earlier, most people don't think outside the box because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone or they're afraid of failing. Well, Woody Allen once famously said, if you're not failing, you're not trying anything new. It's easy not to fail if all you do are things you already know you can do and don't try anything else. But when you do fail, what's the worst case scenario? What, you're embarrassed? Um, get somebody yells at you. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, most of the consequences that we imagine for failure are pretty small. And you need to talk to yourself about, well, wait a minute. What if the worst happens? And then actually think about that and go, you know what? The worst isn't that bad. We can deal with this. I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about perspective with a capital C, and that applies to your own self-esteem and your
Yeah.
own value of yourself and the realization that no matter how inferior you think, when you look at that person in the mirror, as everybody else in the world should, we are all created equally
See?
with talents, unconditionally loved, and so on and so forth. And whatever we do to each other, as far as criticizing, complaining, comparing, and so on and so forth, is just a function of our own insecurity to make ourselves feel more valuable. Because my thoughts and your thoughts about the same thing, there's no right or there's no wrong. It's just your opinion versus my opinion. And if you could just put things in proper perspective and then take that in your present moment events and apply positivity towards how you respond to people when they're doing that and be a positive influence on them just by the way that you're reacting with them and acting for them, they're gonna see you as somebody that has that going for them, and the people who are negative and trying to get to people that way, when they realize that they're not gonna do that to you and that you're actually gonna come back and with something positive, they're just gonna go next, 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 and they can stay in their own miserable worlds. So, I mean, you have that opportunity to do that, and as far as taking a look at what's going on and adjusting, identify those. I mean, some of the reasons that you think you're it's won't think outside of the box and comfortable and so on and so forth, so because this person does this and this person does that and this person thinks this, time out, leap outside the box and do it.
Yeah, we've talked about on other podcasts the fact that approximately 90% of the thoughts someone has during the day are the same thoughts they had the day before and the same thoughts they had the day before that. We are almost wired not to take chances, not to think outside the box. And unfortunately, this is true. We are wired because at a distant point in our evolution, thinking outside the box or going somewhere outside your comfort zone could mean you were going to be eaten by a lion. Well, we don't have those problems anymore. And we have to overcome that programming. Our brain still goes fight or flight, and it will flood you with stress when things go wrong. But use that stress. Go, okay, what is it that's scaring me? What is it that's making me so stressed out? Well, it's, I have this very important project to do. And, if I fail, such X, Y, and Z will happen. Think about it logically and take it to its worst possible conclusion. And then ask yourself, how likely is that worst possible conclusion? You're going to start realizing that it's pretty unlikely for that worst conclusion to happen. Mark Twain has a great quote. I have suffered terrible tragedies in my life, some of which actually happened. We imagine that the worst is going to befall us. And that's your brain essentially trying to keep you out of trouble, but it overdoes it. Again, we're not in the situation where every decision we make is literal life and death. Your brain makes it feel that way, but you're not going to get killed if you make a wrong decision 99% of the time. If you do something and don't succeed, it's not going to kill you. And we need to rewire our brains not to just repeat what we're doing over and over again. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't have systems in place for your work, for your life, because there's certain things that you don't need to be spending brain power on. And for those, you put a system in place. But when it's about something that's problem solving or creative, you need to be able to break out of that. And there's some great little tools that we've all got access to that can help you do this. And one of them is music. It has been proven in scientific studies that if you listen to your favorite type of music, it energizes you, it boosts the creative juices. So take some time, put on your favorite radio station, your favorite music, listen to that, and use that to help you move forward. As I said earlier, a lot of this is about problem solving. So change the framing of the problem. And we've talked on previous podcasts about the importance of reframing situations. In the movie, I believe Dead Poet Society, Robin Williams plays a teacher and has his students stand on the desks. Why are they standing on the desks? To get a different perspective of what they see every day. And sometimes there are just little things. If you're driving to work, do you take the same route every day? Mix it up. Drive up a street you don't usually go up. Take a longer route home, see what's there. You never know what you're going to find. But when you get into habits, habits can be very useful for accomplishing things. But there is a fine line between a habit and a rut.
Absolutely.
And when you cross that line, you've got to find a way to pull yourself back.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned music. I mean, I've always loved music, and I've been singing rock and roll since it came out, and I've always got something going on in my head. And these days, obviously, with Amazon Prime, I can just pull up anything that I want to pull up, and none of it was probably recorded this century because that's what I grew up with. But it's really a great opportunity for you to sit down. We always talk about sitting down and doing a self analysis. If you are down in ruts and you're in the negativity mode and so on and so forth, sit down and start writing down things that make you happy. Start writing down your accomplishments. I talked about writing up a victory log, which is just listing every accomplishment that you've ever had in your life, relationship wise, success, and so on and so forth. And then a daily gratitude journal. But think about the things that you like to do, like listening to music, could be outdoors and so on and so forth, and just write them down, put them in front of you. Visuals will help you out a whole lot if you have that list in front of you to go back to when you're feeling down. I mean, obviously, your head is mostly negative, and it's not hard to pull the negative things out of there. But if you put positives in front of your face as opposed to the negatives in your head, that's going to help too. And I mean, obviously, I've been through a lot in my lifetime and so on and so forth. And I teach this now as far as positive mindset development and maintenance. And visuals is a huge part of it, whether it be written things in front of you or the surroundings or just taking a walk and appreciating everything beautiful around you. I mean, these are the things that are there and you can't argue or do anything about them. They're just there and they're just wonderful. That's all part of the beautiful creation that you, the person in the mirror, are part of also.
Yeah, you mentioned your surroundings, and that's something else. You know, when you see the same things over and over again, it does reinforce that rut. And something I recommend, particularly if you've got a home office or if you have, even if it's just a desk that you're working at, periodically rearrange things. Move the furniture around, move where you store things, put different knickknacks on your desk. It it helps to boost your creative juices because all of a sudden there's something different. Now, if you're anything like me, you will do this periodically. And of course, for anywhere from 4 days to a week, you will be trying to remember where you put things. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though, because you're forcing your brain to think differently. And that's part of what thinking outside the box is. It's getting your mind to think differently, move things around, watch something different, change your routine, go out to eat and order something you've never tried before. Anything you can do that's different will help jar you out of a rut and help you think outside the box. Now, again, we're repeating that phrase over and over again, but realistically, at this point in 2026, with the rate of technology, the rate that systems change, the rate that business changes, the rate that the world is changing. I mean, at the time that we are recording this, the US just spent the weekend bombing Iran, which changed the entire Middle East. Things are changing at the fastest rate in history. And guess what? They're not going to slow down anytime soon. The rate of change never does, it just keeps increasing. So at this point, it's not even enough to be thinking outside the box. You need to throw the box away. You need to forget about how you used to do things. You cannot solve the problems of today with yesterday's thinking.
No, absolutely not. And as far as getting into these routines and positive routines, we have often talked about time management, time blocking, scheduling things, and so on and so forth. And as you're scheduling out your planner, of which what you're doing professionally is just part of it, and you need to put everything else in your life in there also. If you can put some things in there purposely that are things that are going to work on your thinking outside the box, positivity, and so on and so forth, put them in there and they're scheduled there. And when you see your schedule, say, okay, this is something that I have to look forward to. But putting things down in writing rather than just letting it all simmer up in your brain, which obviously it's just going to keep boiling and boiling and boiling until it boils over. And then you got to wipe it up and it's going to boil again. It's start writing things down to look forward to and do that. These are simple things that you can do. And really, when we're thinking about what's blocking us, we think it's really so complicated and urgent and important, and it's really not.
Exactly. And something else that's so important for you to do is to embrace your inner child, the part of you that has fun. And I have done this on several occasions where I have had workshops where folks need to be able to think differently. And one of the things that I have done is given them small Lego sets and just had them build. And you can do this. I have in my office, I have these little magnetic balls and rods that can be assembled in any shape imaginable. And sometimes I will just pull these out and start building something to see what it jars. Have a toy. Have something. There are also, if you go on Amazon, there's all sorts of things they call fidget toys, which are, little things that you can pop or spin or twist. And the whole point of these is to use your hands, use your mind differently, do something that you're not used to doing. Um, I mentioned on our last podcast that I had just gone to a seminar with Tony Robbins. And one of the things he is very big on is physical activity. Stand up from your desk, jump around, bounce a little bit, shake your hands around. You want to get in a quick little workout? Great, but it doesn't even have to be that organized. Shake yourself up, literally, just shake your body. Bounce on your toes, stand on your tiptoes, and then go down a couple of times. Getting your blood flowing. is another thing that helps you think differently. And all of these things that we're talking about are things that you can do with whatever you have available. We're not talking about any great investments. We're not talking about anything that's particularly time consuming. It's just a matter of shaking things up a bit so that you're not doing what you always did for no reason other than you've always done it.
Yeah, it's so, so important to get into a daily routine of moving around, just like you're saying. You can call it exercise or whatever you want, but just going out and taking a walk every day, or as you're saying, just having things in the house to do. I mean, I just have 2 10-pound dumbbells, which is not hard for anybody to do, a couple of curls and this and that, whatever. And I mean, I start every day out with a half an hour morning routine, not with all the weights, but includes walking and that kind of stuff just to get the juices flowing. And I may do stuff later on in the day, but if you take a time out to do that or do stretching exercises and so on and so forth, and if you're looking for ideas, go to YouTube because they're all over the place and get yourself into a routine of doing something. You don't need to go out and spend a whole lot of money. There's a whole lot of different things that you can do by yourself. And while you're doing that, your mind is going to be distracted from the different things that are bothering you. So it's so, so important to do that. And you'll be getting more healthy. I mean, I'm in better shape now in my early 70s than I was in my 50s by a mile, just because I've been doing this stuff for the last 15 years. It's just wonderful. So, and anybody can. I'm exhibit A.
Yeah, and that's something else. Thinking outside the box helps keep you young because you are literally forming new neural pathways every time you do something new. So your brain is not just staying active, but it's improving, it's growing. And the more neural pathways you have, the more capable you are of doing things. So when you keep trying new things, you're keeping your mental acuity sharp. And it is so key. Even, we talk about a lot of this in terms of work and business, but if you're retired, you need to keep doing new things because your brain, as it ages, tends to slow down. And the more you read something new, the more you do something new, the more neural pathways you can form. You're fighting off dementia, you're fighting off all sorts of aging conditions. And again, keeping moving physically keeps your muscles going. It is important for the whole you, not just your work or your career. Thinking outside the box can literally be the difference between having a life that is worth living and or watching yourself slowly deteriorate. And I have seen this over and over again. When a senior leaves their job before they're ready, just because, well, their retirement age, they retire and they're not ready to do so. And they sit around, they don't know what to do with themselves, and their brain starts to deteriorate and their body starts to deteriorate. And when you keep learning new things, when you keep finding new perspectives and new way to do things, new ways to improve yourself, all of that boosts every part of your life: body, emotion, mental, spirit. It's all tied in. And if you keep doing what you always did, eventually you're not going to get the results that you used to. So, just for your quality of life, it is so important to start thinking outside the box more and more often and find what's new. So we are just about at the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
Basically, as far as improvement goes, challenge those negative assumptions like we talked about, embrace the discomfort, turn that around into something positive with new ideas. So take out that sheet of paper and start writing down a positive to-do list and start building that into your daily routine. Use others, run this by others. The more that you're doing this with other people, they're all going through the same thing too. That's really going to help you out also. But basically, what you need to do is just step outside the box and start changing your routines a little bit with positive things doing it. And the best way to start that is to start writing things down that do make you happy or that you're interested in, and so on and so forth. And if you miss something today, you're going to write down more tomorrow. So you're going to get into a routine of doing that, which is great.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little further than that. You said challenge the negative assumptions. I'm going to say we need to challenge all of our assumptions, positive and negative. Never assume that the way you're doing something now is the best way to do it, especially as technology changes, as we learn more, as we know more. Knowledge actually changes, science changes. 30 years ago, when a child got sick, they were given baby aspirin. And after years of doing that, scientists found out, you know what? Aspirin is not good for little kids. And now you don't have baby aspirin on the market anymore. Things that we used to do that we now know were not good for us. Never assume. Always challenge your assumptions and find ways to improve. Even if what you're doing is working well, periodically you should take a look at it and go, is this the best I can do, or can we make this better? There are new tools out there. There's new skills out there. There's new information out there. And most of it is at your fingertips if you just make the effort. So challenge all your assumptions. Look outside the box, think outside the box, and ultimately get rid of the box. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvario.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.